Good evening, friends. Pull up a chair, won't you? Tonight, we gather not to mourn a single star, but to reflect on an entire constellation of legends, men and women who, for so long, seemed larger than life. They were the titans of our youth, the unbreakable heroes and dazzling beauties who graced our screens, shaping our memories and our dreams. We cheered for them, we laughed with them, we believed in their on-screen invincibility. But what if I told you that behind the bravado, the glamour, and the seemingly effortless charm lay a silent, profound pain, a secret struggle that, for some, defined their very existence? Tonight, we delve into the hidden heartache that forged the legends, beginning with a man whose name became synonymous with strength itself, Chuck Norris. His family has finally revealed the private grief that fueled a legend, and in doing so, they've opened a window into the surprising, tragic connections shared by many of Hollywood's most enduring figures. For generations, the name Chuck Norris evoked an image of unyielding power, a one-man army capable of impossible feats. From his early days as a world champion martial artist to his iconic roles in films like Return of the Dragon alongside Bruce Lee, and later, the long-running television series Walker, Texas Ranger, Norris was, for many, the embodiment of American grit and unwavering resolve. His persona transcended mere acting. It became a cultural phenomenon, a shorthand for ultimate toughness. We saw him conquer armies, dismantle criminal organizations, and deliver justice with a precision and intensity that left audiences spellbound. He was the hero who always won, the man who never backed down, the legend whose very tears could cure the incurable. But the truth, as it so often is, was far more complex and heartbreaking than the public ever knew. The invincible man on screen was, in reality, a brother profoundly wounded, carrying a grief that would subtly, yet powerfully, shape his entire career. The secret, finally brought into the light by those closest to him, reveals that his hyper-masculine Hollywood persona was not just an act, but a monument built out of an agonizing loss. In 1970, thousands of miles from the burgeoning film sets of Hollywood, a devastating blow struck the Norris family. His beloved younger brother, Wieland Norris, was killed in action in Vietnam. Think about that for a second. The man who would become a global symbol of strength, utterly powerless in the face of such a profound, real-world tragedy. His brother, director Aaron Norris, has since confirmed what many suspected. Chuck's breakout film, Missing in Action, was far more than just a movie. It was a deeply personal quest, a fantasy he desperately needed to live out. Every captured soldier he rescued on screen, every seemingly impossible battle he won against overwhelming odds, was a cinematic, desperate attempt to save the one person he couldn't, his brother, Wieland. This wasn't about box office numbers or critical acclaim. It was about a man trying to reconcile an unbearable loss through the only medium he knew. The irony is as poignant as it is profound. The man who became a global meme for his perceived invincibility, a folk hero who could count to infinity twice, and whose tears could cure cancer, spent his entire career and built his entire legacy motivated by the most human and fragile of pains, the helplessness of loss. The toughest man on screen was, in reality, a brother who never stopped trying to bring his sibling home, even if only in the flickering light of a movie projector. It was a lifelong dedication, a silent promise to a fallen brother etched into every punch and kick of his legendary career. And so, we turn our gaze from the stoic, unwavering gaze of Chuck Norris to the roguish, charming smile of another icon of American masculinity, Burt Reynolds. For years, the public saw them as two sides of the same coin, titans of machismo, yet distinct in their delivery. One, the quiet, disciplined martial artist. The other, the charismatic, quick-witted charmer who could steal a scene with a wink and a grin. We knew Burt Reynolds as the bandit, the smooth-talking daredevil, the confident leading man who always got the girl and outsmarted the law. His career was a whirlwind of blockbusters from Deliverance to Smokey and the Bandit, films that cemented his status as a silver screen legend. He exuded an effortless cool, a physical prowess that seemed to come as naturally as breathing. He was the kind of man other men wanted to be and women adored. But what the public never truly knew, what the families have only recently begun to speak about, is the silent, tragic link that bound these seemingly disparate heroes. It wasn't a shared film or a casual friendship. It was the immense private pain they each hid behind their indestructible personas. For Chuck, as we've discussed, it was the secret, lifelong grief over his younger brother, Wieland, lost in the jungles of Vietnam. This wasn't a movie plot. It was a real-world loss that shaped his entire career, a wound the invincible hero could never heal. For Burt, the devastation came in a different, yet equally brutal form. In the early 1980s, a seemingly routine film stunt went horribly wrong, resulting in a career-altering jaw injury. This wasn't a minor setback. It was the beginning of a long, agonizing descent into chronic pain. The injury, specifically to his temporomandibular joint, led to years of excruciating suffering, a battle that forced him to rely on painkillers, and tragically, led to a period of addiction. The public, unaware of the medical nightmare he was enduring, saw his dramatic weight loss and gaunt appearance, attributing it to a mysterious illness or even worse, a decline in his mental state. The man known for his robust health and vibrant energy was privately wasting away, misunderstood and often ridiculed. The tragedy connecting Burt Reynolds and Chuck Norris was the crushing weight of their own mythos. Both men, celebrated for a fantasy of invincibility, were privately being broken by very real, inescapable human vulnerabilities. The ultimate irony is how their on-screen legends were an inversion of their private hells. Chuck Norris, the man who couldn't save his own brother in a real war, became a global icon by repeatedly saving his fallen comrades in fictional ones, turning his greatest powerlessness into a brand of power. Burt Reynolds, the man whose charm and physical grace seemed so effortless, spent the latter half of his career in a grueling, agonizing, and very private war against his own body, a battle born from a single moment of on-screen action. He fought for decades to regain his health and his reputation, a testament to a different kind of strength, one forged not in a dojo, but in the quiet, persistent agony of a body betrayed. From the rugged American landscape, we cross the ocean to the elegant, sophisticated world of a Scottish legend, Sean Connery. For decades, he was the gold standard, the very blueprint for masculine charm and effortless cool. He was the original James Bond, a man whose wit was as sharp as his tailored suits, whose presence commanded every scene. He captivated audiences with his distinctive voice, his piercing gaze, and an aura of intelligence and danger that few could replicate. His career spanned generations, from iconic spy thrillers to historical epics, earning him accolades and the adoration of millions. We remember him as a man of formidable intellect, capable of outsmarting the most cunning villains, always in control, always one step ahead. The official report states Sean Connery, at the age of 90, died from pneumonia and atrial fibrillation. But that's the clinical terminology, the final sentence on the last page of a much longer, more heartbreaking story. The family revealed the true, slow-burning tragedy that preceded it. A debilitating battle with dementia. The world's most famous spy, a man whose intellect was his sharpest weapon, spent his final years lost in a fog, unable to escape the prison of his own mind. Here is where the connection deepens, revealing a secret Hollywood never wanted to publicize. While Connery fought a losing battle against his own neurological decline, Chuck Norris was engaged in a near-identical war, but as a devoted caregiver. He sacrificed his career and spent his fortune to combat a mysterious, debilitating illness that struck his beloved wife, Gina, which they attribute to gadolinium poisoning from an MRI contrast agent. The tragic link isn't a single event. It's the shared, brutal reality of confronting an insidious, invisible enemy that physical strength and global fame cannot defeat. Both men, symbols of on-screen power, were rendered powerless by a medical crisis that attacked the very core of their family. One from within his own mind, the other from the bedside of the woman he loved. The ultimate irony is that for two men who built legacies on portraying indestructible heroes, their truest tests of strength were not on a film set. Connery, the man who could outwit any villain, was ultimately outmaneuvered by his own biology. And Norris, the lone wolf who solved every problem with a roundhouse kick, found his greatest purpose in stepping away from the fight and becoming a devoted caregiver. Their most heroic battles were fought not in public, but in the quiet, desperate theater of human frailty, a testament to a different kind of courage than we ever saw on the silver screen. Now, before we continue, let's address something important. You may have seen headlines, or perhaps even heard whispers about Chuck Norris's passing in 2026. Let me be clear. As of our reporting, the martial arts icon, the man who defines resilience, is very much alive and still with us. Internet death hoaxes have, sadly, become a recurring feature of modern celebrity, but we are here to set the record straight. Our investigation continues, focusing not on a death that hasn't happened, but on the profound, hidden grief that shaped these incredible lives. And speaking of profound battles, we turn now to a woman whose radiant smile and angelic voice brought joy to millions, Olivia Newton-John. For decades, she was a symbol of light, music, and unwavering hope. From her breakout role as Sandy in Grease to her chart-topping hits like Physical, Olivia was a global phenomenon, an artist who radiated warmth and positivity. Her performances were infectious, her presence luminous, and her impact on popular culture undeniable. But for Olivia, the official record states breast cancer as her cause of death. Yet to those who knew her, and the millions who followed her journey, it was much more than a diagnosis. It was a 30-year war. The cause of death was the final battle in a long, public, and incredibly brave campaign against a relentless disease that had metastasized, marking the end of an era for a beloved global icon. And here, her story intertwines with Chuck Norris's in a way few would expect. The secret for Norris wasn't just the daughter he'd fathered in an extramarital affair and didn't meet for 26 years. A ghost in his own history he later acknowledged. The deeper, ongoing tragedy was the battle for his wife's life. In 2013, Gina O'Kelly underwent a routine MRI. She subsequently suffered a catastrophic health crisis, which the couple attributed to gadolinium poisoning from the MRI's contrast agent. Norris, the man of action, sacrificed his career and spent millions fighting for a diagnosis and treatment for her chronic, debilitating pain and neurological symptoms. Here, the two orbits collide. Both Olivia and the Norris family were plunged into the world of devastating chronic illness. Both were forced to become warriors, not on a film set, but in hospital rooms and research labs. Olivia, with her characteristic grace, built a cancer wellness center to fight her disease, turning her pain into purpose. Chuck and Gina became fierce advocates against what they saw as a failure of the medical establishment, fighting for justice and answers. The connecting tragedy isn't a single event, but a shared, brutal experience, watching the person you love be consumed by an illness that defies easy answers, and channeling that private agony into a public crusade. How often do we truly appreciate our heroes while they are still walking among us, fighting battles we can only begin to comprehend? The ultimate irony is rooted in Chuck Norris's public persona. He is a meme, a living legend of invincibility, a man who can supposedly solve any problem with a single roundhouse kick. Yet, the greatest, most defining fight of his life was not against a movie villain, but against an invisible chemical, an unseen enemy attacking his wife from within. He couldn't punch his way out. The invincible man's true power was revealed not in his fists, but in his quiet, unwavering devotion as a caregiver, sacrificing his fame and fortune for the woman he loved. His greatest act was not one of strength, but of surrender, surrendering his career to become a full-time advocate and husband, a battle Olivia Newton-John understood all too well in her own courageous journey. From the melodic grace of Olivia Newton-John, we shift our focus to an icon whose very image was synonymous with raw, untamed vitality, Raquel Welch. In the 1960s, she exploded onto the scene, a force of nature whose presence commanded immediate attention. With her unforgettable role in 1 million years BC, she became an overnight sensation, a global symbol of beauty, strength, and unapologetic femininity. Her career was a testament to her enduring appeal, spanning films, television, and stage, always with that undeniable spark and fierce independence. She was perceived as timeless, a woman who seemed to defy the very laws of aging, maintaining an image of physical perfection and sharp wit well into her later years. She was the epitome of glamour, a true Hollywood legend who seemed to possess an almost superhuman resilience. The official narrative, for months after her passing, was a brief illness. It was a clean, simple Hollywood ending, befitting a star of her magnitude. But the truth, shielded from the public until her death certificate was obtained, was far more tragic and prolonged. Raquel Welch's cause of death was cardiac arrest, but the underlying condition was Alzheimer's disease. For years, the woman who was a global symbol of vitality and sharp intellect was privately battling a disease that slowly, cruelly steals the very essence of the self. This is where her story intersects with the hidden pain we've been exploring. The connection isn't a shared film, but a shared hidden pain that fueled two of Hollywood's most enduring, yet disparate, images of strength. For Chuck Norris, the secret pain his family has since acknowledged was the 1970 death of his younger brother, Wieland, in Vietnam. This profound loss became the secret engine driving his entire on-screen persona. The man who could go back, who could win the unwinnable war, the hero of missing in action. His invincibility was a direct response to a real-world loss he was powerless to stop. For Raquel Welch, the tragedy was the inverse. Not a sudden, violent loss, but a slow, internal erasure. Her public image was one of timeless physical perfection, a body and face that seemingly defied age. The Hollywood tragedy that connects them is this profound chasm between their iconic public strength and the deeply human, private vulnerabilities they concealed. One forged in the jungles of Vietnam, the other in the quiet corridors of the mind. The ultimate irony is how their legacies were a mirror image of their private suffering. Chuck Norris, the man famous for avenging the lost, was haunted by a brother he couldn't save. And Raquel Welch, a woman celebrated for a perfect physical form that seemed immortal, was ultimately betrayed by the unseen frailty of her own mind. They were both trapped by the very strength the world demanded of them, living lives that were, in their own ways, a constant battle against an unseen enemy. Let's turn our attention now to another titan of the silver screen, a man whose presence could fill a room and whose performances were always electrifying, James Caan. He was the quintessential tough guy, the streetwise enforcer, the man you absolutely believed could hold his own in any fight. From his unforgettable portrayal of Sonny Corleone in The Godfather, to his roles in Elf and Misery, Khan carved out a career playing characters who were often volatile, fiercely loyal, and utterly captivating. He had a raw intensity, an unpredictable edge that made him one of Hollywood's most compelling actors. We watched him in awe, believing in the grit and resilience he projected on screen. For James Caan, the end came not with the cinematic bang of a Sonny Corleone shootout, but with the quiet internal battle against heart disease. The official cause was a fatal heart attack, a complication of coronary artery disease. He was the quintessential screen tough guy, but he was ultimately felled by a vulnerability all too human, a reminder that even the strongest among us are not immune to life's quiet battles. You know, it's hard to imagine now, but sometimes the strongest among us are carrying the heaviest burdens, aren't they? For years, the public saw Chuck Norris as an unstoppable force, a man without pain. But his family has spoken about the private tragedy that created the legend, the 1970 death of his younger brother, Wieland, in the Vietnam War. This loss was a closely guarded source of immense pain, one that Norris channeled into his career, dedicating his missing in action films to his brother's memory. This is the secret pain that forged the myth. The connection to James Caan is not one of shared circumstance, but of a devastatingly parallel private grief. While Norris mourned his brother lost to war, Caan was shattered by the 1981 death of his beloved sister, Barbara, from leukemia. The loss was so profound that Caan, at the peak of his stardom, spiraled into a deep depression and retreated from Hollywood for years. He walked away from the very career he had painstakingly built, unable to reconcile his public image with his private devastation. He chose to coach Little League, to simply be a regular person, away from the glare of the cameras, trying to mend a heart that felt irrevocably broken. The tragic link, hidden in plain sight, is that both of these icons of masculine invincibility were privately broken and irrevocably shaped by the loss of a sibling they adored. The supreme irony is that these two men, who built careers on portraying fictional, indestructible heroes, were both driven by a profound and very real vulnerability. The public paid to see them win impossible fights on screen, while their true characters were being forged by private battles with grief they could never win. The loss of a brother, the loss of a sister. Their on-screen toughness was a mask for the most human pain imaginable, a pain that resonates with so many of us who have faced similar losses. As we close this chapter on the lives of these unforgettable stars, we're reminded that the glow of Hollywood often casts long, intricate shadows. Behind every iconic performance, every triumphant smile, every display of superhuman strength, there often lies a deeply human story of struggle, of loss, and of resilience. These aren't just celebrity deaths or life stories. They are poignant reminders that even the brightest stars carry their own burdens, their own secret pains. Their legacies, far from being diminished by these revelations, are only deepened, made more relatable, more profoundly human. They teach us that true strength isn't about invincibility, but about how we carry our grief, how we fight our unseen battles, and how we continue to inspire, even in our vulnerability. Take care of yourselves and hold your loved ones close. Memory is the only thing that truly lasts forever.